What's something people insist is harmless that actually makes society worse? Using kids as social media content should just be banned. It's far too open to invite the worst of society to objectify children. I'm referring to using kids as content. I think teenagers posting video game playthroughs and so on is a separate issue. Children are still exposing themselves to the inherent risk posed by adult viewers, and it can cause pretty severe self-esteem issues. Furthermore, some of those children posting their own content are actually being exploited by adults behind the scenes. This is distinct from parent vloggers and influencers who are actively exploiting very young children for money and validation. I don't think children should be on the internet at all, but there is a huge difference between an adult who should know better exploiting their children and a child putting themselves at risk through innocence and ignorance. It is the former that I was thinking of more when I wrote this. Story 2. Influencers, they do harm to others as well as themselves. They promote lifestyles they often don't actually live themselves and that are unattainable for most. They create expectations that can have serious consequences when not met and set standards that are impossible to achieve. Then there are the ones who are actually dangerous, those talking out their butts about health and well-being, like promoting drinking raw milk or eating nothing but nuts and fruits. It's baffling to me how we, as a society, have allowed this particular phenomenon to become as widespread and acceptable as it is. Story 3. Gambling, like it's going to be so bad soon. Young people are going to get hooked by the fact that soon you'll be able to gamble on any outcome of anything. Even something like FanDuel didn't exist more than 16 years ago and has only been opened up more by lobbying for legislation to allow more open betting on sports. Don't even get me started on the stock market. It's all fixed to slowly trickle money from the working class rubes to the elite, and it's working just as planned. If you want to go down a corruption rabbit hole, look up Polymarket and Trump Jr. spoiler. They're basically trying to make the US a giant casino mixed with a provision in the big beautiful bill to tax 10% on gambling losses, which used to be tax deductible. Story 4. I'm not sure how many of these have not been identified as harmful, but the one I think is incredibly bad is the assertion that there are no experts, that everyone's opinion on any subject is equal. During the trucker convoy, a reporter asked if what they were doing was at odds with the advice of scientists. A trucker replied, "We are the new scientists." Even if you agree with his opinion, on what basis are truckers scientists? Harmful? You bet. We have people taking dangerous chemicals that may be doing untold damage to their bodies and central nervous systems because of advice from people with literally the same qualifications as my cat, except my cat wouldn't have offered advice about COVID. Story 5. A big pet hate of mine. So many people where I live don't walk their dogs on a leash because they think their dogs stick to the path and can be kept under control. My family's dogs have gone into scraps with these off-leash dogs, which usually incite the fight, and the owners always say, "OMG, they don't usually do that." Because of this, I refuse to walk the dogs because I'm too scared of these altercations. My parents do it instead. They put them in the car and take them to an off-leash area. I've tried calling people out, but I have always been scoffed at and referred to as a male Karen. This is why I don't want dogs when I finally move into my permanent home. I'm sick of people standing by inconsiderate and irresponsible behavior and making those who have the balls to say something look like the bad guys. Rant over. Story 6. Social games, walking around a subject. If you were direct from the get-go, it might hurt more early on, but in a majority of cases, it would lead to fewer problems long-term. Imagine your friends being upfront about something you do that bothers them instead of letting it gnaw at them for years until it becomes resentment, for example. Or a workplace telling you beforehand that you might have to work overtime sometimes before you get hired. Or TOS having all the negative stuff in plain sight. Or not having to guess what another person means when they say something. Story 7. Media that glorifies criminality, particularly music. I don't think it fundamentally turns good people into bad people. It doesn't make an ordinary, economically comfortable adult deal substances or carry a knife. However, because they are impressionable, it makes plenty of ordinary, economically comfortable teenagers into little schmucks. I live in an area awash with them. It's a wealthy area. Let loads of teenagers act like roadman knobheads. It just makes them do dumb, petty crap like littering, shouting at strangers because they think it's funny, and intimidating people because they think they're hard. The lad who lives next door to us goes to a public fee-paying school and acts out like a little scaly saying roadman crap because he listens to drill. They're not going to end anyone, but it's fully mainstream for normal kids to admire dealers and crap now, and it makes them act like schmucks. Yeah, moral panic. There have always been naughty kids and always a media boogeyman. I still think drill, in particular, is responsible for teenagers acting worse. Story 8. People focus primarily on their own needs and desires, often with the message that you can't rely on anyone else, you have to get yours first. It's often falsely presented as self-reliance, independence, or a strong motivation to succeed, but very often it's just a cover for selfishness and greed. We look at highly competitive or extremely wealthy people as being successful and as examples to follow, when in reality they are often self-obsessed parasites feeding off the goodwill and work of others to satisfy their craving for self-aggrandizement and propping up their lack of self-esteem. Needing to win, to be the top dog, or to rise above the rest has been a sickness poisoning human existence for millennia. Story 9. Social media. As soon as Zuck invented that like button, society was doomed into a never-ending pandemic of narcissism. You can say whatever you want and get a million dislikes, but as long as one singular person likes your post, you feel validated and emboldened. For those who are younger, believe it or not, before social media, you really didn't talk about politics with strangers. It was dinner table conversation with close family and maybe with others around presidential elections. Can you believe that? Now you know exactly what everyone in the world's opinions are and you can't escape it wherever you go. It really played on the human addiction to dopamine, not just dopamine from good things, but also the dopamine you get from seeing things that make you angry. Doom scrolling, fake news, cater to things you already hate. It was meant to bring us all together, but it has done the complete opposite. It's torn us apart and isolated us all. It's also horrible. I wish it never happened. Story 10. Cosmetic procedures. There's a narrative of women can do what they want with their bodies, but I don't think anyone should be allowed to mutilate themselves for unrealistic, unattainable, and frankly horrific-looking beauty standards. I took my son to the hairdresser and she had such extreme lip fillers and buccal fat removal that my son screamed and refused to let her touch him. Later, he referred to her as the monster person. I gotta be honest, I felt uncomfortable looking at her because she looked like an alien. I'm a woman and it's extremely hard to get through life without feeling pressure to be someone else, but 10 years ago, I stopped wearing makeup and stopped removing my body hair, and I'm the happiest in my body I've ever been. And I'm not blaming women who get cosmetic procedures because it isn't their fault that it's so unregulated and so extreme, but we need to be able to talk about it openly without being told to pipe down about women's bodies or being hit with the line, you only notice when it's bad. We do notice even when it's good because it is easy to see when someone's minute facial movements are simply not there. Story 11. Corporate America thinks all the ways they mess with us are harmless, literal psychological tricks to prod purchases or potentially get desired results. All that crap cannot be good for us. It's not good to take both children's parents from them for the majority of their childhood. It's not good to have a constant onslaught of negative news. We know this one already, but content and your fixation are what matter. Last but not least, it's actually quite harmful for entire populations to live with the knowledge that money, finances, or gain mean more than life. I forgot one. The belief in Sky Daddy allows for all manner of control to be placed upon an individual. Throughout history, this has been misused to stunning effect. Also, maneuvering people with shame and eternal damnation breaks people in weird ways. Story 12. Small theft. People joke about pocketing a lipstick or walking out with an old game. But for small business owners, it's not just the cost of the item, it's the lost sale when inventory no longer matches reality. It's the stress of wondering whether it was a customer, an employee, or a vendor who came up short. It's the product not being there when an honest customer wants to buy it, and eventually that customer stops coming back because the store is always out of stock. It's such a small thing that most people laugh about doing a bunch when they are a teen or doing it for a little thrill. It's so needlessly selfish, rude, and annoying. You're saying your moment of thrill means more than the livelihood of another person. It is a, quote, harmless thing that makes society worse. You're just tossing down hurdles for other people and probably not giving it a second thought. Story 13. The not my business and not my problem attitude, especially when whoever is in charge of that problem or business is incompetent. I can't tell you how many people I've seen get hurt because over and over again, no one spoke up when others were doing terrible things. This applies to families, relationships, jobs, and more. I completely understand that at the end of the day, every individual needs to put their own priorities and well-being first, but if you're in a position to be a whistleblower and your silence would lead to more people being hurt, it is your business. Story 14. Casinos. Half of you will likely say that this is already considered harmful, but there are enough people out there pushing for casinos in their boring towns that I feel I can put this here. A casino basically campaigned in my friend's town for over 10 years, trying year after year to get built until it finally passed a year ago. They poured millions into advertising and astroturfing the town. They basically had to work on convincing the next generation to be okay with gambling, and they did. I think sports gambling and general gaming gambling helped insulate the distasteful nature of casinos from the younger generations. Casinos claim that they'll bring money and tourism to the town. Sure, to some industries in the town, but if your town isn't set up for tourism, it's not going to do crap for anyone but the hotels and the liquor stores. Your tourists aren't going to be there to enjoy your town, and your sites, they're there to spend money and party. Is your quiet town ready for that? What it does bring is debt and gambling fixation. It erodes generational wealth. All those videos of old people pulling and tapping away like zombies haunt me. I occasionally work with old folks who have lost their savings to fixation. They lose their homes, live off substandard meals I would hesitate to feed my dog, or squander what would be their children's inheritance, all because they're fixated and casinos won't cut them off until they're dry. Story 15. The instinct to encourage people to make every hobby, passion, or talent they have into a job. I know it comes from a place of helpfulness, but it really just reaffirms that being creative or passionate is only valuable if you can commodify it. Being creative, even with quote-unquote low skill, is valuable in itself because we, as humans, are naturally creative. It helps us understand and connect with the world and ourselves. So many people see themselves as uncreative or unartistic because they aren't good enough, but the bar for good enough is, can this be turned into a commodity? If the answer is no, then you're crap and you shouldn't even try, even if you find joy in it. If you do try anyway, you better improve or else it's pointless. Hobbies should be fun. You shouldn't have to be good at something to enjoy doing it, and if you are good at something, you shouldn't have to make it your job for that to mean something. Ancient humans didn't start singing because they were singers or good at singing. They sang because they were people, and people sing. Capitalism has stripped so much of our natural creativity away in favor of commodity. Story 16. It is harmful but not nearly taken seriously enough, being disrespectful to others' views regardless of the topic. We don't all agree, and that's one of the beauties of the Western world, having the freedom to do so. Respect the disagreements, respect others' opinions, and embrace that you have the freedom to do so. Don't knock others just because you don't agree. We're a divided world, and it terrifies me how that is used against us daily. While we stay divided, we're distracted from what really matters and take our focus off the 95% of things we actually agree on and how they're slipping away from us. Story 17. Extreme liberalism. I've always been fairly centrist, but I used to be left-leaning. Not anymore. I lean slightly right now, and that's mostly due to the actions of the liberal extremists. They never shut up. They repeat the same crap over and over again. They contaminate innocent children with their propaganda. And that's what turned me away from the left, but seeing their actions recently has cemented me on the right, and I will likely never be liberal again. They've become extremely violent. Their excessive and erroneous usage of words like bigotry and homophobia to manipulate people is exhausting. They shun and silence anyone who disagrees with, opposes, or challenges their opinions. I'm probably going to get downvoted to hell or in trouble with the mods just for writing this. That's how bad it's gotten. The irony and hypocrisy is that their go-to slogans are things along the lines of "stop the hate," yet they're the ones who hate anyone who objects to them. P.S. The definition of a bigot is, quote, a person who is obstinately or unreasonably attached to a belief, opinion, or faction. Nowhere does it say anything about hate or disagreement with liberals. By the traditional definition, the extremists are the bigoted ones. Mic drop. Story 18. The emphasis on boring, gray, minimalistic spaces and the lack of comfortable public spaces to gather. So many people are walking around feeling restless and depressed and are not sure why. Meanwhile, we're made to feel uncomfortable anywhere but home. Gray fast food places have a vibe of take your stuff and go. Consequently, too many people are just sitting at home letting the brain rot take over. We're also encouraged to make our own spaces drab. Get rid of your stuff. Your kids don't want it. Paint your house gray so the next person who buys it will want it. BS like that, good luck finding a car or even some clothes in happy colors you actually like. Even Pantone is in on it. I'm so tired of it. Story 19. Car cultures, maybe just one more lane will fix the traffic congestion. If we just tear down more space for roads, people will be better off. Meanwhile, we're just adding more space that needs constant repaving just to justify the existence of suburbs. Suburbs are black holes for public funds and are filled with single-family homes that get sucked up by conglomerates to be rented out. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because he didn't want to have to walk a mile to the nearest crosswalk. Not to mention, most cars in rush hour are occupied by a single person, and most of those cars are going in the same direction. It's a complete waste of space and resources, and the exhaust from millions of people sitting in rush hour traffic is completely unnecessary. Story 20. Having and posting videos of exotic animals online, I'm not talking about rabbits or ethically obtained bearded dragons. I'm talking about people who own raccoons, wildcats, think caracals and servals, or even worse, primates. The exotic pet trade is already awful. Posting cute or funny videos of your spider monkey only encourages other stupid rich people with no morals to get one. Then they realize that primates are freaking disgusting and difficult to keep entertained, so they throw them at a rescue and continue on with their lives, rinse and repeat 100 times over. An account I follow on TikTok, it's a big cat sanctuary, is begging people to stop buying wild cats because they are flooding rescues. Story 21. I've got a big one. There are many people who insist that various things we put into the environment are inconsequential because, quote, nature will take care of it, or, quote, you are going to pass away from something, so why worry? But we have made a big impact that has only recently become widely known and accepted. You can pretty much guarantee getting mercury poisoning from a seafood-heavy diet. There are a couple of celebrities. Jeremy Piven is one who got sick from fish, and I believe mercury levels are heavily affected by human activities. I'm not sure if there is a connection between Alzheimer's and mercury, but I, a layman, can assert with 100% certainty that it sure can't help. And without a doubt, we have all been affected by leaded gasoline. In fact, if you wanted a way to make sure every human got low-level lead poisoning, I can think of no better way than to put it in 1 billion vehicles and have them expel hot particles that both accumulate along roads and reach even Antarctica. When leaded gasoline was first produced commercially in the 1920s, workers got sick and/or passed away. Doctors very familiar with lead's toxicity, known for 2,000 years or more, warned against using tetraethyl lead, but the industry regulated itself and bought off experts, and they did all their best to discredit honest scientists. Millions of tons were spewed into the atmosphere for decades, and I shudder when I think of what it did to us. Now, lead is less of an issue, but we have microplastics, which may be as bad. Certainly, they are as prevalent. I also worry about fluoride and strongly feel that even if the stuff is beneficial, there is no need to bathe in it, cook with it, and drink it. There are easy ways for people who want it to get it while allowing others to avoid it. There are advanced nations that do not have water fluoridation, and their dental health apparently does not suffer. Story 22. White knighting. Everyone wants to be seen as a hero, and we're seeing an online world now where people become incredibly hostile when that idea is challenged. On social media, you can even find people threatening violence over this and then just bouncing right back to thinking of themselves as saints. They think even the most horrifying behavior is justified as long as there's a difference of opinion or a generational difference, and these are the young adults who are increasingly going to fill our streets as the years go on. Story 23. I'm always surprised by how many people advocate for or tacitly support shoplifting. Stick it to the man, they say. Generally, the argument is that big corporations like Walmart deserve it or can absorb it without even noticing because they make billions. What is taking $20 worth of stuff really going to do to them? Here's the thing, you take $20 worth of crap and everyone else in the country who shoplifted from them that day takes that amount or more, and it adds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars per day. Although I don't know Walmart's exact numbers, the average shrink rate for a retail store is about 2% of inventory, and the portion of that attributable to theft is probably closer to 1%. That's quite a bit. Bad stores can be upwards of 8%. Often, shoplifting is only step one of return fraud, so the store can lose twice. This loss isn't simply written off. To recoup it, retailers have to raise prices and cut costs elsewhere. For example, by cutting hours for employees or lowering pay rates. Consumers pay more and employees earn less. And the added security needed just becomes a pain in the butt. Now I need to ring a buzzer to get someone to come over and unlock a security case so I can buy batteries, underpants, socks, and razors. I don't know about you, but I can't do that. I will buy that crap on Amazon, so will other customers. Now the store loses those sales too. The point is, it's not a victimless crime. Story 24. Vaccine choice, either be vaccinated or don't come out into society. If you want to be in society, then you can't be a damn petri dish. Your freedom ends at the tip of my nose. Do what you want in a way that doesn't affect me and mine. I say this from horrible experience, not because I was unvaccinated, but because my kids became extremely ill from the one illness that couldn't be fully vaccinated against. If I ever see that stupid homeschooling Bible family that sent their kids to camp with active pertussis, causing a local epidemic, I will not be kind nor sane about it. The suffering my kids endured over their selfishness. And if you're agreeing with some of the stories in the video so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 25. Not being into politics. Every time someone I just met tells me they're not into politics, don't read that stuff or don't really care, it makes my blood boil. If you'd spend 15 minutes a day, do it on the loo in the morning instead of doom scrolling TikTok or IG, looking up what's going on around you, maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't be in this crap. 8 out of 10 guys on my shift never read any articles. If it's not their perspective or a short video from a right-wing influencer, they aren't interested. They have no idea what the other side says. They just react to what Facebook shows them and hate everyone and everything based on that. I generally don't bring up politics at work because I know my colleagues, but just yesterday I snapped and had a go at one of my colleagues in the canteen. He was watching some BS Facebook reel about why some distant council's tax raise is the fault of the government's immigration policy. It isn't. They raised taxes so they could buy new bin lorries so people don't drown in rubbish. But he got so worked up over it, he was fuming. I asked him if he looked up any source, if he read the council statement, or if he even knew which council it was or what part of the country it was in. He had no idea. He just went on and on about how the government messes everything up. For the love of almighty people, politics isn't your party or my party. Politics is the whole frickin' system that defines how you can live your life at any given moment. It's not about what one politician said to another. It's not a blame culture. It's everything around you. It goes from your street to your neighborhood to your area to your town to your county to your whole frickin' country. There is no singular decision that affects only one single thing. It's all intertwined and encompasses everything you experience daily. You got home 2 minutes later because a traffic light was red longer. That's politics. Someone, somewhere made that decision. You paid £5 more for groceries this week than last week. That's politics. Someone, somewhere decided to increase something for some reason. It could be anything: fuel duty, transport costs, electricity bills, employee tax, that led to the store increasing prices. Your local counselor had to step down for mysterious reasons? Nah, he didn't. He was charged 3 times in 3 different councils before. Chances are he got caught again, yet you just have to look it up. It really doesn't matter if it's the party you like or the party you don't. These are people who will sign things and give orders that will affect you too. They can promise whatever the heck they want, but delivering it is a whole other thing. You can't just say, I voted for him because he promised he will sort this out, without understanding how this actually can be sorted, and then be freaking surprised when he either does messes all or messes up 15 other things in the process. Just look around you. Just 15 minutes a day, you don't need any more, and you will realize that everything, literally everything you see, is affected by politics. It's in your government, it's in your county, it's in your town, it's on your street, it's even in your house when you decide to do or not do certain things. When you decide not to buy the milk you usually buy because it's gotten too pricey, it's not necessarily the store's greediness. It might come from the dairy farm or the council's new regulations regarding dairy production, or the supply chain, or the cow medicine price hike from the government. None of these are secrets. You can find all of this information if you look for it. But yeah, I guess it's easier to say you're not into politics and blame immigrants for expensive milk. Sure, schmucks. Story 26. The gentrification process. It pushes people out and makes the lives of those who stay harder. It's great that homes are being remodeled and businesses are coming in. This gives you greater resale value and more jobs and services. However, the cost is astronomical. What people don't usually understand is that a high home value only benefits you when you are selling. Otherwise, it's not a good thing. Your property taxes are assessed by the estimated value of your home. So, if the value of your home goes up every year, you are paying more in property taxes every year. For example, assume that when you purchased your home, you intended it to be your forever home. You never want to leave, therefore the micro price does not matter. Let's assume your property taxes are $5,000 at that point. 10 years pass and your property value doubles, therefore your tax bill is now $10,000. This is why people get pushed out. It's difficult to grow your wages at the same rate that housing prices go up. The majority of Americans can't do it. Story 27. TikTok. If people can't see how it's subtly manipulating thought patterns, they aren't paying attention. And I know the argument that Fox or CNN does the same thing, but we know they are doing it. The TikTok algorithm is so much more sophisticated and youth-targeted, it's diabolical. Seriously, it's a massive problem, and the legislation banning it was one of the best pieces of law that came out of the last president. It had a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling in support of it. What intel briefings are they getting that we don't? Reading this makes me sound paranoid, but I don't think people understand how insidious it is and how good China is at it. Story 28. Religion, anything that makes you view yourself and others in a negative light, fallen, sinners, not good enough, not doing it right, etc., causes much harm. It also atrophies our ability to progress as a species by purporting to already have all the answers. Furthermore, it can cause otherwise good people to do bad things to others who are not like-minded. Sometimes those things are small, like judging others or mistreating them. Other times they're much larger, like flying planes into buildings and overt genocide. History is filled with our species doing horrible, horrible things while believing they're doing God's work. Story 29. This thread will be filled with popular, obvious things that lots of people agree are harmful, so just for spice. The overuse of music in restaurants, grocery stores, and waiting rooms. We can include TVs with this. It normalizes having to hear background noise constantly and makes more restaurant experiences worse because they don't care if it's a little too loud. Then, because you get used to this persistent layer of audio smog, you are conditioned to hear the occasional ads inserted while shopping, at the gas pump, waiting for the doctor, or even at restaurants. The ads are so unwelcome that the background pollution feels like a relief when the ad finally stops. But really, we would be so much better off if we just got rid of the noise pollution everywhere. I think people would talk more, and it would reduce that vague feeling that everything is getting crapped with advertising and no place is safe from it. Story 30. Insults that relate to groups not defined by what they say, think, and do in terms of trespass. Sits down to relieve himself, throws like a girl, limp-wristed, witch, see you next Tuesday. Our words don't only have the immediate meaning that we intend, they also sell a collateral narrative. When we use ideas that use women to insult men or gay people to insult whoever and so on, we are selling the idea that those people are inferior or bad. Suggestions: instead of calling someone a witch, call them a piece of crap. Need something less strong, lamer, craphead, funk face, etc. I was once a person who, long before South Park did it, defended my use of the F slur in the same way South Park did. It was a common refrain. We weren't talking about gay people and we felt that we could claim the word. We were idiots. Our use of the word continued to reinforce the idea that homosexuals were bad. Sure, we meant annoying people on motorcycles who ruin it for everyone, or something we say to our friends to insult them, but the narrative sold was male homosexuals are inferior lamers and to be one is bad, just as a witch says the worst thing to be is a woman. I have defended insults since I was a child and I still will. I'll even read 2 serious texts on the subject. Oh, and this isn't about offending people. Not only do I not care about offending people, but I want to offend certain people. This is about selling hate and the marginalization of groups who aren't hurting others. If you don't want to be a propagation point of hate towards a group, change your word choices. Using groups like MAGA, religions, collections of beliefs and practices, political groups, and the like as insults is just fine. It's perfectly okay to discriminate based on what people believe and do, and some collections of beliefs and practices need to be maligned on the regular. Story 31. Ignoring the news and what's going on in the world, too many people stick their heads in the sand and want to act like it can't happen here. Well, newsflash, which you won't see anyway, it can and it is happening here. You ignoring it might not affect you personally right now, but it will hurt those you love, be it friends, family, or your own children. I understand taking a break from it, but retreating into your own little bubble makes things worse. Failure to acknowledge the privilege to even be able to do that is a problem. Do you think Venezuelan fishermen and their families can afford to ignore the news? Do you think the scared people in and around Brown University are ignoring the news, or the people of Ukraine? Using the privilege to take a mental health break is fine, but don't use it to the point that you negatively impact yourself and your family. Story 32. Just ignoring incorrect, harmful, or even offensive takes and information online. When you're correcting somebody or arguing with them, you're not necessarily doing it to change their mind. Although it's a bonus if you do, you're doing it to change the minds of everyone else who's reading or listening, those who might be on the fence and don't know what to think. Spreading correct information is always important, and if you feel like it takes too much of your energy or you just don't have time, I sort of doubt that, lol. But maybe you're one of the relatively few people for whom that's actually true. Story 33. Speaking dishonestly about preferences to keep the peace. For example, a group of friends is deciding where to eat for dinner. One friend leads with the first suggestion. One or all the other friends say, we could eat there, or let's do that, when it was actually a place they didn't prefer, but they just went along with it. Then they have that complaint card in their back pocket for later that night or for a future conversation. At the very least, speak up about where you actually would have wanted to eat. Being honest about where you want to eat doesn't mean you've chosen for the group. In many instances, this could put a food option on everyone's mind that everyone would have truly loved but hadn't considered. Withholding your preference robs the group of this outcome. It also creates an unstable, "are you sure?" or "we don't have to" platform for the next time around. Others will find it hard to know if you actually want a place you agree to in future situations. Story 34, New Age Parenting and the Natural Approach to Disease. Now, let me elaborate before the downvotes begin. I come from a generation where you didn't ask your parents twice. Their word was final, their house, their rules. That's not what I wanted to replicate with my own child. I discuss things, I explain, and I make sure he understands both rules and consequences because that is my job as his mother. But, and this is a big but, this new style of parenting, whether you call it permissive or gentle, is producing people who are often entitled, poorly behaved, and dismissive of basic social norms. Many of them struggle to function properly, act out, and genuinely seem unable to understand where their freedom ends and another person's begins. I won't even get into the inflated egos and the constant me mindset. And should I even begin to unpack the madness surrounding the anti-vaccine movement, free birth, the so-called holistic treatment of illnesses like cancer, or claims they can treat staph with lavender oil? Story 35. Having people stop and wait in line just to walk on the sidewalk just so people can get their picture or music video, TikTok with no people in the shot. Like, it's not a problem when it's literally just a snap, but it's never just one snap. It's like 20 to 50 clicks with multiple poses. Or that one chick who got mad at me for walking in her shot for 3 seconds while she was filming a video on the sidewalk midday in Wicker Park in Chicago. She got mad when anybody tried to walk down the sidewalk and yelled at people to just walk into the street where there was ankle-deep snow. Like, people effing live here. I don't care if you're a tourist. I'm not walking in the gross street with bags of groceries. It's also made visiting some attractions almost impossible due to hours of waiting in lines just so certain people can get their photo shot in front of the waterfall. The main character energy is gross. Story 36. People traveling to cities and towns as tourists, acting a fool, and on the street or on doors, stealing things like street signs, being all disruptive and loud and not regarding local laws or customs. And then they justify it by saying, "Well, I'm on vacation." I'm not going to come to your front yard in the middle of suburbia and by your front door just because I'm not from there and don't seem to know how to find a bathroom. I'm not an animal and I have a brain. Why the heck do people think this is okay to do when they visit Chicago or other big cities? Do they not realize that people friggin' live there and they are literally taking a as the British say? Fun thing about in public in Chicago, you automatically get put on the offender list if caught. It doesn't matter if you're a tourist, doesn't matter if you're intoxicated. Do most tourists know this? No. When they get busted for it, do I laugh because they just all over my street and are now going to be on a national registry for at least 10 years? Yes, every time. Story 37. Using phones at all while driving, even at stoplights or in traffic. I get it, it's boring to sit still for 30 seconds. But your one job while behind a steering wheel is to drive safely. And that means you need to pay attention to your surroundings at all times while operating the vehicle. Pay attention to the light so you can go when it's safe instead of wasting 5 to 10 seconds because you didn't notice the light change. You're also less likely to notice if someone starts walking in front of your vehicle. You're less likely to notice changes in traffic in front of you, or if there's a funeral procession or an emergency vehicle. People think it's harmless because I'm not moving, so there's no danger. But that's not true. Part of being a safe driver is paying attention to your surroundings, and when you're on your phone, you aren't doing that. Even while stopped, just put the damn thing down. Literally nothing is important enough to justify being on your phone while operating a vehicle. Story 38. The idea of always putting yourself first and having hardline quote-unquote boundaries that are not for negotiation in any situation. But don't get me wrong, boundaries themselves aren't inherently bad at all and are actually necessary if you want to avoid simmering with resentment. But people take it too far sometimes, especially online, and are completely inflexible in certain situations. For example, someone might say that they're an introvert and their boundary is not being put into uncomfortable or new social situations because they're socially awkward. Okay, well, how will you ever improve on your social awkwardness if you don't put yourself out in social situations that challenge you and may make you uncomfortable? Story 39. Gift cards. Because I love you, I am taking this actual money, which can be spent anywhere in the world to buy practically anything, and taking it into a store where you may or may not otherwise shop and exchanging it for special money that can only be spent in that one store. So now you have to schlep to that one store and try to buy something that equals the value of the special money. If you don't have enough special money to cover your purchase, you'll need to add in some of your own. If you have too much special money, the store will leave the change on the gift card and you'll have to wait until your next visit to the store, at which time if you buy something that exceeds what's left on the card, you'll be adding your own money again to make up the difference. happy birthday. Okay, so I get that you're not supposed to send cash in the mail and that nobody uses checks anymore. So why not get some preloaded Visa cards and let the recipient decide what to buy with them? Or don't be so damn lazy. Spend some time thinking about a gift that the person could actually use and get that. Story 40. Fractured, divorced homes and single parents. My parents were the only couple to stay together in our entire extended family. In your 20s, you figure out your direction. In your 30s, you walk that path. By your 40s, the separation is clear. Adults are big children. It's sad seeing my cousins and friends' fatherlessness issues being more noticeable now than ever. They are still in emotional survival mode. They cannot love properly. Everything operates from a mentality of scarcity. I think in abundance and how to make some cuts. It's imperative to be around people who were raised like you. People raised in love will do anything for you. People raised in survival will do anything to you. Story 41. Sheltering kids with specific kinds of disabilities, and keep in mind this is not always the case. If they have a certain kind of immune issue, that could be understandable. I'm talking about those classified as neurodivergent, like those with autism. Growing up in the hood, my parents didn't shelter me from life's problems. They told me what I needed to hear. They were trying a different form of discipline because they drew the line at those with disabilities. My parents also taught me that if I have to get into a fight and find myself in trouble, I should make sure it's worth it. Defending myself was worth the trouble. However, the school system didn't see it that way, and boy, did they fail miserably when it was discovered that yes, girls can have the same conditions as boys. And when the No Child Left Behind Act was passed, it was a disaster. Story 42. Letting Christians normalize their dominance as simply existing. I come from a Church of Christ upbringing and saw these arguments as a child, but as an adult, I can see how they know the idea is horrible when you see how they react to other groups. I had to break ties with an aunt because she was preaching hate, predicting another group would push their religion even 1/10 as much as hers has done. The war on Christmas, that's a war they started against you. To those in power, equal rights and visibility feel like stealing power from them. Story 43. What's considered, quote, harmless to me is people eating while shopping and then throwing whatever's left in the bag on the nearest shelf. Chips, cookies, candy, etc. These people also eat fruit, usually grapes or worse, cherries. They spit out the pits. And my favorite? They eat chicken wings from the wing bar and throw the bones on the floor. Have you ever counted the number of half-finished bottles of water, soda, or juice left on shelves? Evidently, they assume they're not stealing, but they are. The entitlement of the general public is off the charts these days. Those who do not participate in this behavior end up paying more for food to cover the loss of revenue. I once watched a woman allow her young daughter to take multiple donuts out of a bakery case. The girl took one bite out of each donut and put it back. Her mother was taking a video of this and laughing about it. When management was told, they shrugged and said they couldn't do anything about it. Story 44. Generative AI. It harms people who lose their jobs to it. It enriches crappy, generationally wealthy people. It harms the environment and raises utility rates for citizens. It has made certain computer parts prohibitively expensive or hard to find, just like crypto did. It allows people to profit from having zero skill or knowledge at a task, art, programming, etc. It's flooding multiple markets with slop, making it harder not just for humans to sell and produce quality work, but also for customers to find quality products. It's absolutely being a menace in mental health right now. People using ChatGPT instead of getting actual help for their very serious problems is a major issue, as are therapists using it to diagnose clients. It has made academic cheating even more rampant, and it's making people even stupider. Reading comprehension and critical thinking are worse than ever. Story 45. The fact that apps and most internet content are available for quote-unquote free. This has created the false idea that digital content must be free, and our society cannot conceive of the idea of paying for it. The consequences are terrible. Now we have to live on an internet riddled with ads to the point that some apps and web pages have become unusable. The feeling you get is that when you pay, you don't pay for the app, which is quote-unquote free. You pay to remove bad things, the ads. Because of that, apps are not optimized to offer you a good product, but to maximize audience retention. This is why almost all apps are addictive. They don't care about what they sell. They care about how many ads you'll see. Because of that, many useless apps have become popular and are literally stealing our time. Instagram, TikTok, and so on, these apps bring almost nothing good to our lives, but they are so interesting that we spend hours on them. Because of all this, addiction, real-life interactions have decreased, loneliness is increasing, and mental illnesses are increasing, but hey, at least we can access TikTok for free. Story 46. Never outright asking for help. Instead, you mention something you need help with. I don't get the hints, and then I look like the schmuck for not helping. Them. Oh man, I have to move this weekend. Oh boy, it's going to suck. Me. Yeah, man, I hate moving. Them to other people. Man, they are such a bad person. They knew I was moving and didn't help. Other people. I know, right? Just ask, god dang it. I am busy too, but if you ask, I will drop what I am doing to help. I assume you have it under control and are just telling me about your weekend. And if any of these stories got to you too, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.